Good morning. Happy Tuesday morning. It is it's time for us to get back into a little bit of a BR. Is it BR code GG? Right. Almost said BRGG code, which would have been not exactly correct. Although even I have it in front of my face, I still didn't read it properly. So I'm going to be letting the heater run this morning a little bit, so it might be a little bit weird background sound. I think sort of like there's some kind of fan or something else running in the background. That's because it's 9 degrees outside and it's really cold, so I don't want to just stream in the cold. And also my heater is not down here. It got moved. So, move you over here. Last time, what we ended up doing was, and I want to actually put a little stream thing in here. So slash marker start. There we go. Last time we had gotten the grid printing to the screen. So let's go ahead and see if the code is actually compiling still, or if we made any changes that doesn't work that. So it's cargo run. Okay, yeah, so we've got it working. The grid is printing to the screen. This is the full size of the grid. We don't have to print it all out because the grid doesn't really care about what's in it. It's kind of empty right now, actually. So I believe that the next step for us is to have a bot claim that it's somewhere in here. And when it is, we're going to display that to the screen. Probably by like filling it in at the beginning, but then maybe later on putting some kind of symbol or circle on it. So what I was thinking is that in the game grid, we could have a test for when a bot is initialized, and that it's going to, I'm thinking, choose its location. So when the game starts, it'll probably have to say like the state of the game is the start, and then the bot will choose where to go. And that I think we should try to do turn-based, at least to begin with, because then we could pass in what cells are being used. Because otherwise, it'll be very hard for the bot to decide. Well, it will say like, "Hey, I want to go here," and it's already been chosen. And then what do we do? Just randomly assign it a spot for it? I suppose we could do that. But if we do turn-based, then if it chooses a spot that's already taken, the bot just dies because it didn't render in. It didn't properly choose a spot to go to. So what that means to me is we need a new game. We're going to have a new test, new game grid. It'll have a start. It'll have a start or like a turn counter. I think that's what it is on turn 1. On turn 1, the bots can choose where they want to be. So if I write the bot chooses start position. I think I want to switch over to using this bot too. The ones from bot examples instead of just test bot down here. Okay, so game input, we're going to get out the JSON. We're going to have, so we have a lot of other stuff in here. I don't think we need it all. We're going to have the board. So we definitely need the board. We need the turn number. The idea, I think, is for like myself, like I am ID blah. So that way you could find yourself on the board. if turn number equals 0, choose random location on board. So that's what this bot is. Choose a start location. This is just JSON console logging this location. This takes a board and the location, which is nothing to begin with. It's going to extract the width and height, so the size of the board, the number of cells. And this one, okay, this is choosing an actual integer number because it's flooring it. And setting that in there, and then we're able to console log this. I think this should work. Now, what's interesting is that we don't have an ID for the bot, and this bot doesn't really care about it, so I don't think I want to store that. I just want to grab the board and the turn number because that's all we really need here. So if we have that, then we'll come back to the game. In the game, we're going to need to track the turn number so that we can pass it in. Good morning, Miguel. Okay, so I think we could have a turn number in here. Well, that means that in the game tests here, so when we create main state new, we should, at the very beginning at least, have a turn number 0. Oh, and this is also grabbing, like telling it, this will be a file name from bot examples. I think it should probably be bot examples / this will be a file name. Oh, I see what it is. We're just only grabbing this string and putting it right there. That's the funnest thing about programming, is just remembering what we did in the last thing. All right, so main state, we're setting all this stuff up, and then what we want, we have bot locations. We also want to assert equal, and you probably hear that. That's a blender going on upstairs. Main state dot. I closed all the doors, but I don't think it helps that much because, well, the kitchen is right above us. Okay, so main state dot, I think I'm gonna put, turn number. Turn number, and we're gonna say turn number 0. Now this should fail because turn number doesn't exist. Yeah. So if we come up to here, we need a turn number. I might as well use U16 because I've been using that for everything else. I don't think I'm ever gonna need to like worry about combining them together, but I don't know if there's a purpose to like keeping all the, I mean, these could be an unsigned. I guess this could end up being a really large number, so maybe I'll try 32. Okay, so turn number 32. When we create a new one, we're not going to bring in turn number, we're going to just set it. So main state down right here, we'll do let turn number equals 0, and then we'll put that in here. Now, it's just upset that it's not being used, but I think the test should pass. Let's try that. Cargo test. Perfect. Okay, so they all passed. Then when we create the, well, when we run the actual bot, which is in bot.rs here, we're going to end up passing in the turn number. So the bot doesn't care about like the game state. Well, I guess the player's program is going to care about the game state. But we're going to have to pass in. So let's see where we do that. Not drug it. Okay, so for update, we have our context, we bot update, and then update the grid with what the bot did. I'm thinking what we really want to do here is pass in not just the context, but what else do we have in here? Well, we're going to pass in, we have to pass in the grid, so it can find its own location. And we're also going to have to pass in, so the grid, and also, where is it? The turn number. I think that's all I need right now. The grid and turn number. So I can do self. Oh, how did that happen? Let's see. And I won't necessarily do that right here. Let's go to the actual bot. So when we create a new bot, we're taking in, oh right, because we're not creating a new bot here. We're creating a new bot up here in main state new. Here it is. So we're handing it the game grid width, the game grid height. So how many cells in the width, how many cells in the height. We're also going to want to hand it the current, no, because the current turn number is going to change. So every time we run it, we have to pass it the current turn number. So this just sets it up. Then in update, we're going to want to pass in the turn number. So let's go to bot. This won't be a new. In update here, we're going to take in the context and the self. I don't know if we're going to need the context after we're done with it. Because, yeah, it's underscored right now because we're not doing anything with it. Because we're not going to have the bot draw itself anymore. We previously were having like each of these sections, these modules, sort of like handle the drawing and updating themselves. But I don't think that's really what we want it to do. So instead of context, it might be better just to bring in the turn number. We're serializing the state for the bot. So I suppose what we could do is add in a struct that, yeah, we're gonna have to put a turn number into the struct here. Up, and the heater's on again. And with the turn number on, then when we serialize data, we just have to update the turn number here. Okay, I think that'll work. So, and also the bot is expecting it to be turn underscore number. So let's do that. So when we create a new bot, we're going to expect at the, we shouldn't even have to pass in the turn number. We should just expect it to be 0. So we create a new bot, expected point, assert. So let's do assert equal here. Assert equal, and this is going to be bot dot turn. What do we call this? Turn number, yeah. turn number to be equal to 0. And of course, there's no field on that, so we'll go fix that right away. Turn number is going to be a U32. And then when we create a new one, we're going to add this in here. Let turn number equals 0, and add that in here. Turn number. Okay, so we're slowly moving towards that. Now if we run our tests again, okay, oh, failures. Right, because the serialized state is now different, because now we have a turn number 0 in the serialized state that is coming out of the bot, which is good. That's kind of what we wanted, but now we have to update our tests for bot. So in the serialized state, turn number is at the end here. So after game grid, we're going to comma turn number 0. I think, oh, and backslash that. I think that'll work. Yes, okay, so the test pass again. So now, when we run the bot, in the library, we're going to do bot update. We're going to pass it in the turn number, and it's going to update that. So in bot, under update, there's no reason for us to keep context in here, so I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to instead say new turn number, which is going to be a U32, and we're going to update, so self.turnNumber equals new turn number. Now, I believe this won't work because I didn't set the field to be mutable. Or maybe it will work. I guess I don't need to. Oh, wait, did I set it already? Mutable self. Okay, that's why. All right, so we have the new turn number saved in. We actually need to do this up here. So we need to update the turn number, then we can serialize the state. Then we can get the new location and go with that. So I believe we have a test for this. Oh no, new location. Okay, so we have run bot. I think actually it would be good. Oh, right. We're testing serialized state, new bot. We should test this new location in here too. So assert equal. This is going to be bot dot turn number 0. In serialized state, we have our turn number that's being updated. That's perfect. And in run bot, we're going to give a new bot expected point now we're just running run bot. How does it know where to go? It doesn't. It's hard coded actually where to go. I guess that's okay for right now, but that's definitely something we're gonna have to change in the future because people are gonna want their own bots, not just whatever test bot I have. Also because that wouldn't really be a fun game if it's just my bot. Okay, so in run bot, we're going to serialize the data. We're going to get that back. We're going to expect the new location equals the expected point. I'm thinking that instead of a random point, we should have it just go for like 1, 1 every single time. because that's going to be really, yeah, bot location clone. This having it go in the same spot, I don't think that's going to help. So let's do this. Expected point is, and this is with a 100 by 100 size. We're going to do a point new, and let's just say it's going to go to 5, 5. We're going to serialize the data. We're going to get the new location, and the new location should now match the expected point. And that's because in this spot, instead of a random location on the board, we're going to choose 5, 5. So goodbye you. This is going to be 5. It's going to be 5. The board isn't really useful here. All right. There is, oh right, because there's no context, now it's going to be self.turn number. And bot, you should all be happy. All right, let's run our test and see if we get the right turn number. Also, we have the wrong location. Where is this actually? So it's in bot examples. So we're going to do bot examples / chooses start location.js. All right, I think that's what it's going to be. And if this works, it chose 5, 5. Okay, no errors. So I think that actually worked and ran. I mean, I suppose we could actually like log out or print out what the responding JSON was, but this should work because we actually now are testing that the location is the same. And this location here is updated. So that's new location, bot run, serialized data, unwrap, because bot run returns the new location. Okay, so now how to actually get this to work for real. When we run the code, we're going to we're gonna like set everything up. We're now having these bot locations. I think maybe this should change because we have bots and bot locations. I think this should basically be bot file names, essentially. So if we use bot file names, vector location, this should be bot file names, or bot file name is the type. Bot file name. Okay, bot file names. Do we have that here? Oh, we have bot location still. Bot file names, bot file names. And then down here we have bot file names. The idea for me for doing this is because in the future we're going to call this application and we're going to hand it a list of where all the bots are, and most likely what we'll have done is done a bunch of git clones to pull like the bot codes down onto a system, and then sort of like assume where those bots are. We could also have a shell script to actually verify that there is a JavaScript file at that location. But until then, so now in main, let's actually see where this. So when we create a new, we're going to have this vector of bot file names. So that means in main here, we have this right here, bot examples, choose a start location. And I think we want .js just to make sure we're going in, displaying everything fully. So that bot examples, chooses start location, puts that into a string, puts that into a vector. I don't think that's exactly correct, is it? Because these are bot file names, which has, a local and the URL. So we're going to have to bring in bot file name and put that into a URL. Do I actually test that? I don't. This is incorrect because bot file name local string from, this is just, oh no, okay, so this one is correct. I'm testing it correctly here. So bot file name local, okay. In main, this needs to be bot file name. Bot file name, local, and then here we go. Perfect. I wouldn't be surprised if later on I decide to sort of do a quick rewrite of all this. Now once I get the bots working and a very, very basic game running, I may have enough information to do a really fast rewrite to get everything into the right structure that it actually should be in. But I found that when I code something like this, it's really hard to assume whatever code state you want it to be, because there's a lot of discovery to be had. Okay, so we're going to pass in the bot locations here. In the main library, we're going to get these. We're going to go through the bot file names. Where did bots to create? Oh, bots to create is the number of them. Yeah, it's the number of these bots to create. How many am I creating? 1. Okay, perfect. This is a bot new. We're just passing the game grid width and the game grid height. Are we doing anything with this? It looks like we're doing nothing with the bot file names for right now. And I think that should change. So to me, we don't need bots to create anymore. We're just going to pass in the file names. That's going to work. So we don't need bots to create. We just need these bot file names. And then we're going to have the list of bots that we're going to push into. So we're going to have to iterate through this one instead. So bot file names. So I think I can do this. For bot in bot file names. So now we're going to have an actual bot. But this will be the location, won't it? should name this bot file name in bot file names. Then we're gonna have to check to see if it's a local URL. They're all local for right now, so I'm just gonna test for, I guess like we could match off of this. So we're gonna match bot file name. We're not going to return anything from here, and it's gonna be a bot file name local. Let's see, local, we're gonna get the, I guess the URL. And if we do this, we're going to then, oh, I guess we could return from here. So it's gonna be a let bot, good morning, Juan. Let bot equals, we're gonna create a new bot off of here. It's gonna be a bot new. The game grid width is fine. We have this right here. So game grid.width, game grid.height. And was there anything else that bot new wants? No, okay, so it's gonna return the new bot into here. Okay, yeah. So we haven't covered the other one yet, but we're not gonna worry about that right now. So I'm just gonna say, well, actually, we can do that. So bot file name. This is gonna be URL. Where we URL. Okay. This shouldn't be URL then. This should be what the file path. I guess it's gonna be a path. Bot new. We're not doing anything with this path because right now the bot is hard coded with where it's going to run. The project is going okay. It's definitely a learning project, so I'm learning a lot while I'm going through and doing this. I can see already that there's going to be a lot of there's going to be several places where I'm going to want to refactor and be completely different once I have the basic part working. But I think that's going to be fine as a sort of a, not rewrite, but sort of major refactor at that time. All right, so we're going to do a bot new game grid dot width, begin here, game grid dot height for here. You are also not being used, so I'm going to underscore you. We're going to get the bot, so we don't need you anymore. And then we're going to push the whatever bot we got off of here into the bot's vector. Now in main state, we don't actually care about the bot file names, do we? I don't think that we do, because what we're going to end up doing is just handing that to the bot and saying, this is where you live. You keep track of that. We don't need to keep track of you. So that means you don't need to be here. And in our tests, our bot file names doesn't need to be here either. So our main state dot bot file name this doesn't matter anymore. Takes 4 parameters, but 5 parameters were supplied. Oh, I wish I would like just also show that right here. Oh, I guess new will show us. So we have width, height, grid cells count. Instead of 25 bots, just the bot locations. All right, so all the tests are passing here. Main.rs is now not happy because we no longer need number of bots to create. We're going to delete you. Did I? All right, you're fine. Number of bots to create goes away. And you're happy. Okay, so what else do we have here? File name. Okay, so now that we have that one bot file to create, we create the bot. We're going to run. Okay, so we run new on it. We now have bots. In update, context is not being used, so I'm going to underscore this. Also, I think this can be actually made to context. That way I like writing out the variables if in my mind I write it out in my mind. So I say to myself, this is context, so I don't see a reason to just say CTX. It feels like it's extra little mental cycle overhead. Okay, so then we have for bot in mutable self bots. We're going to run bot update and hand it the turn number. And then we have to update the grid with what the bot did, because the bot location is now new. So now we have to tell the game grid here it is. We have to be able to tell the game grid, hey, this is where a bot is now. The programming language you use is adding a Rust mode. It'll be interesting. Oh, really? Interesting. What programming language do you use that they're adding a Rust mode? Because that sounds actually pretty awesome. Okay, so we have our game grid. We don't really have the ability to move, do we? We have a piece here, and it's just empty. So like when we create a new game grid, it's just an empty game grid. They call it destructors. NIM language. I've heard of NIM, but I don't really know. I don't know anything about it. But that sounds awesome that they're adding a Rust mode to that. Okay, so this is going to be the next thing we need to think about is how do we update the grid and tell it that like a bot is there now? Because we don't have any way, because right now it's like it's an empty grid. So after the first turn, we're going to have to say, okay, now place the bot on the grid. So in the library, I could see that there's like a couple things we need to do. Is we do need to update the grid with what the bot did, but that's going to be a little bit more interesting because if bot is so if turn is 0, so if turn is 0 and bot is not on grid, let bot choose own. I guess it won't be, we don't have to check if it's on the grid. It's not on the grid. So if turn is 0, bot gets to choose its own starting position. But what that means is I need to now tell the grid, all right, the bot is going to come here. And we have access to the game grid off of the state here. It's the game grid. So in update, we run the bot. We now have a bot location. It's turn 0. So I think we can definitely do an if statement for this. And then we'll go through each bot. Yeah, okay. So how do I want? I have to think about this, and trying to come up with it really fast is interesting. I'm almost thinking a function off of the game grid to place bot. But then later on, I might want to have a move bot. And the game grid should probably be the ones to tell whether or not that's legal or not. Even if the bot shouldn't ask for it. Instead, what we should do is just say, okay, game grid, place a bot over here. So the place bot is placing it on the board when it hasn't been there already. All right, so I'm going to save you. We're going to need a new test in here. Doesn't need to be mutable. It's going to need to be mutable later, but I'll remove that off so we get less warnings. All right, so we're going to need a new test. This is going to be function place bot on grid. And this will essentially be the first turn. I guess I could just go this first. No, it's place bot. That's what it is. Okay, so we're going to place the bot on the grid. We're going to have a new grid like this. So that's essentially just like doing, I don't need that fully. Well, let's do we could do a 2x2 also here. So that, actually, do I even need something like this? I think I could just do a straight game grid. So game grid equals game grid new. We'll do a 2x2. I think I have this for the tests because then it's going to be easier for us to look through and say like, oh, that's exactly what it's doing, columns and rows here. But once I move on to the other tests, I don't need that sort of self-documentation anymore. Okay, so if we have a new game grid, we're going to want to place a piece on there. And I just realized that we're going to run into a problem here because the piece is completely empty. So our piece enum is going to have to represent like what is on there. And how do I want to store it? Do I want to store like a reference to the memory in it? I don't know if the game grid actually cares about that. But we are going to need to like figure out things, like which bot it is when we go to move it. Because in the library, we're going to have access to the full bot. So we can access to you. We don't have anything in here. We could definitely have an ID, which would be easy enough to just put in the index in the vector and just use that as an ID. We put that on there. I don't think we need the full bot because the board doesn't really care about what the bot is doing, does it? All it cares about is just where it is and if it's legally allowed to move. The library here can be the one that determines whether or not it's allowed to like fire or something. I think that we can do that. Okay, so inner mod game grid. So we're gonna have to update our piece. This is gonna have to be a bot, and I'm thinking this is just gonna hold an ID. I guess for like right now, I could just have it be bot because we only have one of them. But we're definitely gonna want to change that. Oh, the index would be nice because if I store the index, and we have these bots, then when we go to draw them out, we can just say like, okay, game grid, just go to this position and get its location, then draw it to the grid. Okay, I like that too. So let's make that an index. The piece is going to have a bot and an index to it. Do I have to? Is it here that I do? I think 16. No, that's not right. All right, I need to remember how to put numbers inside of here. All right, let's go look up Rust by example. Rust by example enum. Is there a dark mode in this? There's a coal mode. Perfect. Okay, web event. There's a. Oh, okay. So I just put the type in here. I don't need a structure. That's what it is. So instead of you, it's you. And this might be better as like bot index to make it a little bit more readable and understandable of what it is. Okay, so this variant is never created. We'll come back to mod here. Are we ever grabbing? No, we're never using piece. And we have this game grid cell. I don't know if we're not using that either. Game grid cell, where are you? Okay, it's a hash map of game grid cells, but it's empty to begin with. This is going to be a string. What was my plan with this hash map? Because it would make sense for it to say like, okay, on the left, it's going to be the coordinates. And the coordinates are going to be just like 5, 3. I guess that kind of makes sense. And then we have game grid cell. Okay. So let's move on. Let's go find game grid cell. Here's the game grid cell. Here's our piece coming in. Contains a piece. We have our test. Cell equals game grid cell. It's in, these are the coordinates of the X and the Y. So it's in cell 1, 2. And then we're just verifying that they match here and that the cell contains piece empty. I'm wondering if that's even necessary to have an empty piece anymore, because we're kind of going to have the grid not have anything in it if there's nothing there. So it almost makes sense to me to not have an empty, to only have something like a bot index or other things. In game grid cell, it's gonna have to depend upon like what this is. So when we create a new cell, we may have to pass the piece in. Because we don't necessarily need the game grid cell to make these kind of assumptions for it. And then the next thing is, do I even need game grid cell like this entire file? Because in mod, which is our game grid, the hash map is empty until it has something in it. And therefore, I don't know if I need a cell anymore, but it's rather just going to be the piece that goes on it, because I kind of just have a wrapper around whatever it is. So I don't actually know if I need game grid cell. All right, because we have Git, there's no problem for us to play around with this. So let's try getting rid of this. So we're going to delete game grid cell, move to the trash. If we do that, nothing really breaks because nothing was using the game grid cell. We are going to have to bring in a piece though. So we create a new game grid, and then we're going to say place a piece, and it's going to, or place a bot, and we're going to take in the index, and then we can check to see, is it in the hash map? Okay, that's what we're going to do. So we create our game grid, then we're going to say, okay, game grid dot place bot. So we're going to run this function that obviously doesn't exist right now. We're going to hand it the index. So let's do let bot index equals, I don't know, 1. I can even just do 0. It's the first bot. So it's going to want to know the index of this bot, and it's going to want to know the index of the bot, and it's also going to want to know the location of the bot, the coordinates. So let bot location equals point new, let's do 1 1 1, so top left. Then when we place the bot, we're going to say, okay, we're going to do index, so bot index, and then the bot location. We're going to give ownership over to the game grid. All right, so game grid, place the bot, hand it the bot index, hand it the bot location. Obviously it's upset because there's no game grid cell. Let's change that. We'll get the other errors that are more helpful, like the fact that there's no place bot and the fact that we don't have a point here. How do we bring in point again? It's just mod point. Can we oh, it's mod point and then use the point. Mod point, use point, point. Oh, and it's not quite that simple. In the bot, it's, oh, right, because I have to use this use crate point. Because I don't have to mod it anymore. It's going to use create point. Because there's no game grid cell, I don't need you anymore. We don't really know what we're putting into this. We've been thinking about just using the piece, but it may end up being something slightly different. I can almost imagine instead of being an enum now, it may have to be its own struct. So in a way, we had a game grid cell, and then a game grid piece. Now we just want just piece, like just I guess a game grid piece. Make that a struct instead of an enum, and then it can store the index and the location on top of that. So when we go and do searches through the hash map here, find this specific struct, then we can move it around and play with it. So that's what we're working on next time. So I'm gonna put in a to-do here. I usually don't like to-dos, but I'm gonna use it right now because it's a good way for me to, like, on Thursday remember exactly where we are. So to do, we're going to finish creating the place bot on grid function. May need a what is it? A bot, a cell piece structure, or something like that. I'll go ahead and save that. We know we'll have to refactor the game grid cell because it's gone. And I don't think I have anything else. So let's go ahead and get these sent up. So I'll call this day 13. And what did we do? We working on getting a bot to choose where it is on the grid. And sending, yes, don't show again. Okay. I will push that up as soon as we're done. I don't want to type that out right now. But in case you're interested, the URL for this all is right here. So I'll be pushing up the code for this. It's the code is always going to be open source for this. I'm not really expecting, like, gonna plan on closing source or anything. So I generally have been only working on this on stream. There's been a few tiny, small parts where I've worked on it outside of the stream, but I usually talk about that when I get back. My next planned stream is going to be on Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. Mountain Time, and we're going to continue working on this at that time. I am working on figuring out other times that I can stream throughout the day, because the mornings are not necessarily usable for me right now, just the Tuesday and Thursday, and that would be awesome to do more streams again. But I don't have anything else, so I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'm gonna go get ready for mine, and then I'll see you all on Thursday morning.